Everything you need is already inside of you. The world would not be what it is without you. When we begin to create change within us, we begin to create change in the world around us. Your journey to becoming your best self as the whole person starts right now.
Hello and welcome to the Become Your Best podcast and webinar series. My name is Lauren Sweeney and I am here as your host today. I'm really excited about our guest. Victoria has written an incredible book that it will be live next month, August 2021. We're very excited to hear from her today. Let me let you in a little bit on about Victoria, and whether you're listening to us perhaps in your car or while you're walking around outside today, or you're watching us live on our Facebook page, we are very glad that you are here with us today. Victoria Song is a leadership advisor to visionary founders, billionaire CEOs, and celebrities alike. She's a Forbes 30 under 30 investor, a Yale and Harvard alumni, and Victoria has helped her clients achieve multi-billion-dollar exits, write patents in 24 hours, and more. Wow, that sounds amazing. She's the author of the brand new book that we're going to hear about, Bending Reality: How to Make the Impossible Probable. We would all love that, right? She has literally helped readers tap into their hidden potential so they can make the impossible probable by accessing seemingly supernatural, extraordinary abilities they didn't even know they had. Victoria Song, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having me, Lauren. So great to be here.
You're so welcome. So before we get into the book, how did you get on this journey? How did you literally be able to tap into your own superpowers to create now what you get to give to others?
I love your preview because becoming your best self, I feel very aligned already. I think, my own journey started in 2013. I left finance and tech and industries that looked prestigious from the outside, but internally I wasn't fulfilled. I felt pretty empty. And I also discovered that the more I achieved, the emptier I felt. So whatever I was doing, while to the outside world seemed like I was going up, inside I was confused and I was, a little lost. And I think I started to trust that inner voice more than I was trusting this external measuring stick that told, me and everyone that I was doing great and I should just keep doing what I was doing. So in 2013, I had that, existential awakening. And when I left finance and tech, it wasn't clear to me what I would do instead. But I did start to hire coaches. And as you saw in my summary, I've now hired over 25 coaches and still more every day. And just started to discover how to listen to that inner voice that's pretty quiet and had been put in the background for so much of my life because I'm definitely an overachiever. So was not used to listening to my own inner voice. And then it started to come online. I started to turn it up. I started to hear it better. And then that's what led me to my current path where I'm helping people, leaders, entrepreneurs, really the most successful people achieve more while not being burned out and while also feeling fulfilled and not at the expense of their personal lives.
I love that. We have such a similar story. I feel that was me before I came here to Rise Up For You. And we're really taught that. So both you and I live in California, but I feel like most of the Western world, we have a lot of listeners in Canada and we work with a lot of clients in the UK, and we're very measured by our titles and our roles. And we think if we just get more titles and more roles, we'll be fulfilled. And then we get them because we're achievers and we're doers. And then we're still not fulfilled. And it was almost a rug pull. Like, well, wait, you're all not happy either. You think, wait, what are we doing? We're all just in this same rat race and really pulling out and realizing who I am matters. who I am is where I'm going to get the fulfillment. And then whatever I'm doing is going to be incredible, but I'm not looking for the fulfillment in what I'm doing. And that sounds like that's the journey. And now you're giving that to others, and you've hired coaches. You've had people pour into you to listen to that inner voice. And now you're about to become an Amazon bestseller. I'm going to manifest it for you, Victoria.
Thank
Bestseller
you.
author. When did you start writing your book?
Yes, thanks for holding that vision with me. It will be also distributed by Simon & Schuster, so wherever books are sold.
Love
and
it.
I wrote it in May at the beginning of the quarantine. And so I really set the intention of creating my life's work during the quarantine. So it's kind of a interesting thing to say, but that was just what I chose and decided to make this time about for me. And really, once I declared it, the book sort of wrote me, like the words and chapters came through. And then once the chapter outline was there, it was very effortless to write the book. And so I actually wrote the book in about a week. And most of the time between last May and this year was just figuring out what path I wanted to take forward. Do I want to self-publish or go with a publisher? I ended up going with a bit of a hybrid model and just learning everything there is to know about putting a book out there into the world, like what matters to me and why does that matter to me and what are my intentions behind my goals, and just getting so much clarity and who I've become on the other side of such a deep reflective process of putting yourself visibly out there was really, I feel like the book was just for that, for me to get there. And then now I'm really excited to share the best techniques and principles that I've gathered from working with, again, like so many of the world's best coaches, executive leaders, mentors, therapists, alternative healers, really everyone who had something inspiring and, a bit of a beacon of light for me along this journey since 2013.
Wow. I love that. I love that you kind of pulled from all different angles to create the best you possible. And in doing that, you're able then to give to others because now you have that kind of 360-degree perspective.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love the intentionality too of using this time. So we are currently in July of 2021 and have been in some sort of version of COVID for a year and a half, and using that time to really create your life's work and create maybe one of many books. I guess you'll see what you feel like, but I love that you found it effortless. You don't hear that a lot from authors, but that it was really true to you. And then you were able to flush it out and make it happen. And now here it is. Besides writing the book, tell me about the other work that you do professionally.
Yes. And I also do want to touch on most people think it's hard work, because that's a great paradigm to dive into as well. So I would say, along those lines, I think a lot of my work with leaders is helping them access these new paradigms. Because yes, there are realities in which you need to brute force things happen, work harder to be more successful, achieve. And, we have a lot of evidence for that in our world today. And as you probably have figured out, there's another kind of altitude to life, that you can tap into, that you can access. And we just aren't taught it. We don't know it. We usually just take on whatever we saw our parents do, whatever, society is telling us. And a lot of my work is identifying what is that programming, conditioning, and some people call it blind spots that are creating a little bit of a box that my clients aren't aware that they're living in and operating within. And through the work, we identify not just the thoughts, but also the emotions and the feelings that keep them trapped and maybe they're avoiding feeling. And then we also get them into the peak physical and mental state required to, like I said, make the impossible probable. So it is really understanding what's the operating system that you've been living under, what are the paradigms that you've been living in, kind of just taken for granted and think that this is all there is to reality, the only truth that exists. And then we sort of shed all that programming, and then you consciously choose, who you want to become truly, like your best self. You get to create it. And that's really the journey.
I love that. I was talking with one of our clients today that we coach, and we were talking about systems and processes and how we've always done things. And she said, I know maybe there's another way. I'm just not sure I'm ready for that. That makes me so nervous, even if it's more efficient and more effective. What would you say to people who are listening or watching us today, or they say, great, Victoria, but I don't know if I want to let go of what I'm comfortable with?
Yes, this is a huge thing that my book actually touches on, which is uncertainty and change. And especially in entrepreneurship, that's sort of the name of the game, right? There's so many unknowns. And if you're doing it right, you're always in uncharted territory where like no competition has been, you're in innovation, you're doing things in a way that no one has seen or done. And whenever there is unknown or change, it's very natural because we're wired for safety to want to seek familiarity. And so it's just evolutionarily wired. There's nothing wrong with us that that's our natural default state, but just recognizing that to us, that unexpected email can trigger a sense of fear that feels as intense as like outrunning a lion, and even though logically we know those things aren't the same, we don't have like different variations of fear in our body where we're like, oh no, that's fear of, my life. And then that's fear of failure, to our systems, it kind of registers as the same. And so I think just understanding that like, okay, that's natural to be in our comfort zone and to know that certainty is sort of the enemy of growth. And so if you really are committed to a journey of growth and evolution over a lifetime, you're going to have to really push through that discomfort, that push through that moat really that is keeping you safe. And because your dreams are really on the other side of that. And so a lot of the tools in the book are really around how do you start to relax your nervous system? How do you unravel it so that you can start to feel safe and secure, even in the midst of so much uncertainty? And how do you really know how to work with fear and walk with fear? I think some people hear the fear and then that's actually what stops them. And then other people know how to manage and work with and walk with the fear toward their dreams. And I think that those are all skills that we can build. And a lot of it comes from, emotional mastery and emotional intelligence. And like, how do we be with the fear of failure? How do we be with the discomfort of disappointment? And how do we know that even if the worst case scenario happened, we can trust that we'll be okay? And I think it's that level of I will be okay no matter what. And that repetition of having enough proof and evidence, that you've been able to ride the highs and lows of your life, really give you that resilience and that perspective to face your fears and to go after what your heart most desires, even if you might be disappointed, right? There's like a willingness to fail, a willingness to be disappointed. And if you can't do failure, then you're going to be stuck in your comfort zone for the rest of your life. So there's definitely an element of accepting and the willingness and knowingness that you can handle it that allows a lot of my clients to end up, achieving outcomes that are defy odds and defy time.
I love that. Can you give us a couple of steps? And of course, they should get the book and read it. When you talked about unwinding the nervous system so that you can feel grounded and feel clarity and not be so triggered every time an email comes across or a client is upset or something like that. I love that. We talk about that in a different framework of feeling who and knowing who you are as a macro confidence or the different macro confidences you have. But talk to me about unwinding the nervous system. I love that.
Yeah. So a great quote by Matt Kahn, which I appreciate, is that the ego is an imaginary identity of an overstimulated nervous system. And so what I've seen in a lot of clients who find me show up pretty wound up. And that your nervous system is tight when like you fall into black and white thinking very easily. Like you can kind of only see option A or option B, or you kind of worst case scenario spiral, or there's people who go from 0 to 100 very quickly. It's like you activate a hot topic and it becomes everything's on the line, and it's like their ego identity. If it's attacked, it feels like physical injury, like there's actually a real threat to safety. And so this is describes a lot of the clients when they find me. And then first step one is finding things that feel really good and relaxing to you. And one question I often ask readers or listeners is, what feels like a 10 for you when you're doing it? And so for some people that could be making art, for others that could be cooking, for others that could be spending time in nature. It's starting to identify you actually have almost like a combination lock code, right? Where it's like you have your 3 numbers to unlock your lock. Everyone's going to be different. And so what's 10 for me is different from what's a 10 for you, which is different from the people listening. And there's something about giving yourself the permission, time, and space to do those things that is actually so calming and nourishing to the nervous system. And so you notice at the start that you like these flowers. Well, this is like a ritual where every Friday I go to the farmer's market and I actually spend hours pouring into picking and designing and putting together bouquets around my home. And that's something that brings me pure joy. So it's really like tuning into what are those little things that you do that really light you up, and can you prioritize them and see them as actually really, truly impactful, like a good ROI to invest in those things that are a 10 for you. That's one of the easiest things that everyone can do to start in training their nervous system to a calmer, more open, more expansive state.
Yeah, I love that. We will talk with our clients and tell them if you are not in your schedule, that's a problem, right? And usually like our time to go to the farmer's market, or that massage we think would be a great idea, the workout, if it doesn't get in my calendar, I don't actually make it a priority. And so I love that. Talk to me about how they can find you, the book. And I know you have certain things on the website too, that they're definitely going to want to check out.
Yeah. So on victoriasong.me /bending-reality is where you will find the book. And if you pre-order it now, then you will get all sorts of techniques from breath work that gets you to this more calm nervous system, to an exercise that helps you identify your mission statement in just a few minutes, to uncovering your compass of your values. And then also a great exercise if you're ever feeling some contraction, like a little bit of stress or overwhelm, you could tune and listen. These are all audio guides, actually. So these audio guides are available for pre-ordering the book. And I love your emphasis on investing in yourself. That's ultimately what it is. It's ability to see that everything you invest your time, money, and energy into is really ultimately an investment back in you. That massage, those flowers, whatever it is, if it makes you happier, if it makes you more joyful, if it makes you more relaxed, well, guess what? Your business is going to thrive more. It's going to ripple out into you being more productive and more successful in every area of your life.
Absolutely. I love that. So if you're listening to the podcast today, the book is titled Bending Reality: How to Make the Impossible Probable. And it's available now for pre-order at anywhere you buy books, including Amazon, all the bookstores. Go support your local bookstores that made it through COVID. And you can also go directly to her website, victoriasong.me, just like it sounds, and it will take you right there. You can pre-order these audio guides. I love the sound. I love to voice text. I love to leave audio messages. And then that sound repetition really does make a difference to creating that mantra or that new life or those practices that matter to you.
Absolutely.
Well, we love to ask our guests a final question, and it's a good one. It's, what does rise up for you mean to you, Victoria?
I love the visual of rising up. And the first thing that comes to mind is to rise up together. So when I hear rise up, it feels like a call for all of us to take each other higher. And I think, it's such an important message because we have lived in an old paradigm of competition where to be my best, or really we want it to be the best, which is really at the expense of others, right? Whereas now we're emphasizing, well, let's do our personal best. And there's space for everyone doing their own best and really comparing yourself to who you were yesterday and who you were last year. And so we're really moving from an old paradigm of scarcity, competition, there being only room for one, to being a together, like together we rise, together we soar, we get to rise up together. And what we do for ourselves, we truly do for every other human on the planet.
I love that. Creating those new paradigms, new shifts, starting by unwinding that nervous system. I love the quote that you mentioned that talked about the ego. And really, what do we identify with? And absolutely, we talk a lot about that too when you're easily triggered by a topic. And there's been many of them this past, year and a half. And it's an easy place for our ego to become identified with, just like our ego found identity and content in our jobs or our careers. And so many of us experience changes in those areas. And so as we sort of come back home, come back to that intuition, come back to that groundedness, so we can literally make the impossible probable from a new shift. And it doesn't have to take, it's just a little shift. Just like, I love the analogy of the bike. And in the middle, if we just shift a tiny bit, it's not that much effort. But if we're on the outside of the wheel, it's a lot harder to move it. So Victoria, it's just been fantastic having you on today. Congratulations on the book, the business you built, having the courage to leave the fancy, nice titled, finance space.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Really fantastic. Wasn't she great having on the podcast today? I hope that you gained some nuggets and some new thoughts. Definitely check out her website, check out her book. I'm Lauren with Rise Up For You. It's been my privilege to be your host today. Please check out our website. We would love to give you access to our free Become Your Best Success Kit. All you need to do is go to riseupforyou.com/success kit, and you can download it for free. Also on our website, maybe you want a time management calendar to put you into your schedule. That's also on there under our free resources. And we will see you next time live on our podcast here at Rise Up For You.